Make sure it's live. Am I live yet? Okay. Hello and welcome to Michael Pepper Tech Talk. This is Creator Interview Episode 5 with special guest Tech 702. Being that we both have the same first names, I will be referring to him as Mike. If you have any questions for either one of us, refer to him as Mike and me as Michael, and that will make things easy. So without further ado, let's welcome Tech 702. Good evening.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
So much better today.
Yeah.
Can't tell you. Yeah, so I had a little tech woes with trying to get an iPad and found out that this whole virus thing is affecting the supply. And so I ended up going with a 64 gig model, but T-Mobile gave me a $50 credit on my next bill because of not being able to get the right one. So I'm like, well, that works. You know, they seem to take care of people pretty well, and
That's good.
and then I ended up getting another free line, which I'm using with one of those sync up drive things you plug into your car and you can monitor your mileage. And I have it set so like when my wife gets to work, it sends me a message, and when she leaves, it sends, so she doesn't have to remember to send me a text or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like if somebody were to break into your car or try to steal your car, it kind of monitors. Plus, they have it has a Wi-Fi hotspot, so.
Well, as long as you're getting something out of it, that's cool.
So it's 2 free lines so far. So,
Free
and
stuff, bro.
you know,
Make it happen.
and I can upgrade it at any time. So I could go in and be like, I want another tablet or I want a smartwatch, and just swap it out. So, have you? So, what sort of excitingness have you had going on? I know you weren't feeling well for a little bit there.
I've been I had a sinus infection 3 weeks ago. It worked itself down on my birthday last week, and I had to actually call out of work for the first time in a long time because my rule is respiratory. Like, I'll fight through being sick, but if I can't breathe, bro, I can't go. So I'm better, still coughing up the remnants, or what I hope is the remnants of what I had. It was almost like a walking pneumonia. So here I am. I probably sound a little nasally because I'm still blowing my nose and stuff, so I apologize. But can you guys hear me cool? You can hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound good to me. So,
I talk like
um,
that.
it was like watching Jeopardy yesterday. He has a cold or something, and he sounded very nasally, but like deep voice at the same time. It was kind of funny.
We'll get through it. We're under the siege of a plague. The media will have you believe. So
It's crazy to me because it's one of those, like, you realize that there's way more people affected by the regular flu. There's way more people that
it's not
like,
marketable, though. You won't click on it and you won't buy stuff if it's just the regular flu. Not that it's not dangerous. Not that people aren't dying. I'm not trying to be that guy,
yeah.
but I think it's a little overblown.
I know that like in our realm of things, people like Al Jefe and like Adam and Dan and different that are doing headphone reviews and stuff, they've been really affected because they're getting hit with not being sent review units as much.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I was told that it would be 3 to 4 weeks before the iPads would catch back up and things like that.
Really?
So, yeah.
I would have thought they had tons of 64 gigabyte on deck.
Well, but I wanted the 256.
Oh, I thought you said you settled. Oh, so you settled with a 64, but you're still awaiting a
I
trade out on
wanted
that?
I wanted a 256, so
Oh,
I might, like, if it comes in a couple weeks, because technically you have like 2 weeks to. I'll just bring it in and swap out. But
yeah. So I put my main SIM. I have two lines. You know, professional player, but I got two lines. I put my main SIM back in the iPhone this week, and that was one thing I looked at because in my Note, obviously, I use an SD card, and that's typically my daily driver. But with the iPhone, I have 220 something gigabytes used, and so I had a white one. I traded my white one and my Pixel 3 for this green 512. So that's what I have now. So right now I have a Note, and then I have the green 512 Pro Max. That's what I'm rocking with.
I've been rocking with the base level Note 10 Plus,
Great phone.
and the maxed out the 512 white. And also I have my OnePlus 7T, and I do use all of them. Like, people could say, how do you do that? Well,
I got them all. I usually keep them all powered on. Same way.
my iPhone battery life, like if I'm going to be gone somewhere, I know it's going to be good for me. Usually 2 or 3 day weekend, I'm good to go. My OnePlus 7T, I like how fast it is, and if I'm constantly doing stuff, switching back and forth between apps, I know that I'll be able to just switch between like Twitter and um, Facebook Messenger and Facebook and Instagram and editing and even like updating my descriptions on my videos and stuff and not have problems. And then my note, it's like if I want to watch something, there really isn't much that compares to that viewing experience. And so sometimes, quite literally,
Huge
I'll
ass
have
screen,
my
bright
note
colors.
propped up watching a video, watching like Netflix or YouTube or something. And then I'll have my iPhone propped up in like iMessage going and be using my OnePlus 7T at the same time.
My
Like,
wife drives me nuts. She's like, "Why do you have your tablet on? You have 2 cell phones active." I did the same thing. It's like I have to multitask. So if I'm streaming, whether I'm watching YouTube or a movie, Netflix, doesn't matter. I always have 3 devices going because there's like not enough time in a day. So I'm kind of half-assed doing everything, which is fine because it's just consumption, right? You're BSing with your friends, you're watching Netflix. It's not. She's like, "Why don't you pay attention?" I'm like, because I can kind of watch the movie and I get it because it's not like there's anything really fantastic made currently. And at the same time, I can carry on my social. I can carry on what I'm doing with my channel. But then she doesn't like it because I'll rotate her in. Yeah, I rotated you in. There's your iMessage.
what's well, and then as I was just reminded by Tech for Your Needs, of course, I have my iPad also, which, so I know it doesn't seem like much, but 9.7-inch to 11-inch is actually a pretty substantial change. Like, I didn't think it would be, but it's kind of taken getting used to, and not getting my hand in the way because of the, having the smaller bezels has thrown me off. So
12.9. So yeah, I went from the 9.7 to the 12.9.
I thought about that, but at the same time, I was thinking,
Not the flex, just saying.
for what I do, portability, like, ultimately, I'd love to have the 12.9-inch, like 1 terabyte model, but not for like almost $2,000 because of carrier models
Well,
are,
plus you end up buying stuff like this. Like, you got to have the Logitech, right? That's $170 when I got it, plus my Apple Pencil. Now I'm doing Photoshop. So yeah, I'm into this more than the actual laptop I use on a daily basis. That's what's funny about it. So at some point, if I do go all Apple, which I'm considering, I'll probably sell everything. I'll sell this. I'll sell my G3, and I'll probably just get a MacBook Pro and rock a MacBook Pro and an iPhone. If I stick with the content creation, just because of being able to move stuff around, it works out.
It's funny because I basically sold a laptop to somebody when I was at Best Buy the other day. Like,
I
I
do
was
that all
walking,
the time.
like,
Don't buy that one, bro. Buy this one.
last night I was getting my case, and there was a guy, and he was talking to somebody that works there, and the guy just like kept walking away, and then he'd come back, and then he'd walk away, and then he'd come back, And I heard him talking about what he was going to be doing. I was like, I use an 8-year-old MacBook Air, like, on the daily. Like, I've ran streams from it. I've done editing and stuff. I'm like, so what you're looking at over there being 8 years newer and way better processor, way more RAM and storage, you would be more than fine. Because he was looking at like the i5, but he was looking at like the 32 gigs of RAM model. And it's like, you'd be more than fine. You don't need to go to an i7 or an i9 for what you're doing. You're doing photo editing. You don't need, like, people think that they need way more than they do. And
Yeah,
unless you're doing some crazy stuff, because like,
I mean, some CAD rendering and video editing is where you need the hyper threads, really. I mean,
yeah,
if you're
I
doing
mean,
audio, you need it.
I did it was a 360 panorama HDR image when I was in photo classes, and I did that on my Mac Mini, and that's just the i5 2.5 gigahertz. I got 16 gig of RAM and 512 gig solid state drive that I put in myself in there, but it handled it, and that was a 30 gig file, like all the layers and everything. It
The
was
render might
crazy.
take a little longer, but like I'm rendering, like I said, I have a G3 laptop. It's got a 1660 Ti GPU in it, and I'm able to do everything. I try to keep my videos under 5 minutes. I have like I think two, maybe over 5 minutes, but my render time is less than 15 minutes on those at 1080. So it's not bad on that laptop.
Yeah, it's funny to me though, because and kind of sad. I have this decked out computer, and my phone and my iPad will render faster than my computer does. It makes no sense. Like I have the um, Ryzen 7 2700X, the RTX 2070 overclocked edition, and 32 gigs of RAM, and my exports will be closer to like real life time length
Mm-hmm.
and than my computer will be, and it makes no sense to me. But whatever.
I think we're getting close finally to the point where there's always been such a separation between the average consumer, purchase the compacts, the HPs, like you run into Fry's and grab something type computers, and the elite computers of people that knew what the hell they were doing. I think we're finally, that gap now is to where if you're not seriously editing and rendering, you're going to be fine. You're not going to find like a serious performance deficiency as an average consumer anymore. That's good.
It is really good. Even like the APUs that they're making, you can do a lot of stuff on there without even secondary graphics, and it's crazy. I was noticing.
I just noticed in order to look at you on my monitor, everybody else, it looks like I'm looking away. So Wapner at 3, like I think we froze you. Okay, so technical difficulties with Michael Pepper Talk. We're going to go ahead and I guess I'll continue to show. So some of the things we're going to talk about today, he wants to do an interview. And I think what we're going to go ahead and talk about is my channel, why I made a channel. So I'll go ahead and jump into that real quick. I made my channel basically off of a whim because I'm seeing that, yeah, he logged out, chat. He logged out. So, but I'll go ahead and tell you guys about my channel real quick because that's why he brought me on, and we'll let him boot back in. But the reason I made a channel was I've been lurking in tech for years. And, you see these things and sometimes you question the, not necessarily the integrity, but maybe that guy's viewpoints, where is he coming from, stuff like that. So my initial thought was, I've been lurking here for so many years. I have so much tech background. I buy all this stuff. I spend thousands of dollars, to my wife's dismay, on buying most of the stuff. So the reason I initially made my channel was just to have an outlet for that, to enjoy it, to have fun with it, and, go from there. Oh, looks like we got Mike back. I just gave him a brief synopsis of why I created my YouTube channel.
Great. That
really brief synopsis about why I created it, because I noticed you were having some troubles there to fill the dead air, because I'm the consummate professional. No, I'm just kidding.
I appreciate it.
It was either that or I was gonna go grab a beer.
So what happened is somehow my internet just dropped out. Like on my computer, it just went from Wi-Fi to trying to connect over hardwire, and I don't have hardwire. So it's like, that's a first. So I hopped back in. I was like, he'll take care of it. I know.
I got you, bro. We're good. No, I just took a minute and just very briefly talked about why I created a YouTube channel in the first place.
Well, that's great, because so far you've actually answered questions that I had in my list, and so that's perfect.
We're good to go. I'll let you take the lead again.
So I guess we'll just kind of go through some of these. So not precisely, but what area of the country, I guess I could say to you.
My address is 7. No, I'm in Vegas, baby. No, I'm in Las Vegas right now in Nevada. That's where I am today. I work in California, so a lot of people get confused about that. So I spend 3 to 4 days a week in Cali, 3 to 4 days a week in Vegas. and I'm from Southern California in Orange County, Huntington Beach specifically. But Vegas is my home for about the last 10 years.
Cool. Never been there.
Really? Well, CES is calling your name next year.
I'm hoping so.
You should be at 1,000 subs by then.
That would be nice, and to get like some company to say, hey, we'll help pay for your room or whatever, and because that's the more expensive part.
Even if they don't, I mean, you can, if you book in advance, you can get some good room prices. And if CES working with CTA and them, if they don't, my company, I have side companies. That's how I got in, because I didn't even upload a video. My very first YouTube video I uploaded December 28th. CES was a week later, and that the YouTube video I uploaded was just, hey, I'm Mike, I'm an idiot, subscribe to my channel, basically. The reason I got into CES is I have another company that does stuff with tech related enough that I was able to con them into giving me a pass. So I got you. Oh, looks like did you lose you again? Are you there?
I'm still here. I just was looking through because I realized you already answered like the first half of my questions, which is great. So, I have. So, which device or devices would you be looking forward to the most this year?
In 2020?
Yep.
In 2020, I'm looking. There's 3 actually, and Samsung always. They tip their hand with the S20. So we know kind of what the Note's going to be. They'll probably revise the camera a little bit, right? Maybe they'll go crazy and make a Fold 2/Note and it'll be cool. But we generally know what Samsung's going to do. So when I say what I'm looking forward to, it's not like what I think is going to be the best phone, but there's 3 phones specifically, or 2 phones specifically in one brand. And so it's the iPhone. It was called the iPhone 9. Now I think it's back to the iPhone. The Pixel 5, and then the TCL brand of phones. And the reason those 3 is the iPhone or iPhone 9 or however they end up branding it. If that phone comes out at $500 or less, watch out, right? Because one thing Apple does is what they do is they pull down the screen resolution. They might pull down a camera factor, but they never let the OS or the processes you can run on an iPhone suffer. So if you're going to buy that iPhone, even if it's $500, they're not going to put a phone that sucks out there, right? It's going to be competitive. It might not have the bells and whistles and stuff, but you're going to still get the same quality experience on iMessage. You're going to get the same quality experience with AirDrop. They're not going to do that. So now you look at the Pixel 5. The reason is because my personal favorite experience OS-wise is Pixel. Vanilla Android, but there's flaws with the hardware on the Pixel, and that's why I'm using my iPhone right now, and I use a Note, but I keep a Pixel 99% of the time. I'm going to pick up a 4 on a better deal, and then TCL, their mid-range phones, because if they can provide an experience similar even to the Pixel A series, then that's a consideration as long as they don't overskin it. So I would say the iPhone, and most of these are mid-range things. And because I think we're going to enter a realm, everybody talked about 2020 is going to be the year of the mid-range. And the S20 dropped, and all the reviewers said, hey, we're going to only review mid-range phones. And some people are like, we're going to put an embargo on phones that come over $1,000. We're not going to mess with them this year. Well, the S20 dropped, everybody bought it, right? It just came out, and some people are already returning it 2 weeks later. I think the end of this year, when we see that the Note comes out and it's barely a step up from the S20, TCL drops their midline, the Pixel 5 comes out, or even the Pixel 4a possibly, and we see what iPhone does with a $500 range phone. I think that the end of this year will finish with mid-range phones. That's why those are what I'm looking forward to.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's thrown me off because here you had Apple came out with, the one year they had the 10 and the 8 and 8 Plus. Then the next year they did the 10R, the 10S, and the 10S Max. And the 10R had, like you said, all the same internals and same, support for iOS. It just had the lower resolution display and lacking one camera or whatever. And then The next year they do the 11, the 11 Pro, and the 11 Pro Max, and the same thing, but they dropped the price from the 10R to the 11 by $50. Samsung does that 1 year with the S10e and then gives up on it the next year. Like, nah, we'll
Well, they
just
have
do
the
the
A
A line.
series. The A series is cannibalizing it. I mean, I don't
But
have the numbers, but you have to think it is.
well, I know that sales wise the A series is higher, but the problem with that too is that those aren't available everywhere. Like not every carrier has, and it'll be like the A10e and the A20. It won't even be like the A50, the A70, the A80 that are more like the higher mid tier that would take place of like the base S line. So it's weird. Like, although they make it look like they're releasing 27 phones in 1 year, yes, I counted. Which ones are actually available for everybody is like at the complete opposite ends, and it's kind of seems weird to me. But I think that's where Apple's kind of stepping in, and they're like, well, we'll just continue to do what we do, and we'll release a cheaper device like the SE, and then they redid the SE later, and then they'll do this one, and they took previous generation like the 10R drop down, so you could get the 10R for $599, things like that. So it'll be interesting. I some people say Apple's gonna continue and they're gonna raise their price because Samsung did. I don't think they are. I think
No,
that I think that they raised their price.
$100 for 5G. If they put 5G, price will go up $99.
So,
I'll bet you.
um, so what I've heard is that the production cost from what they're making to add 5G into it is only like $20 more expensive. So, um, here's my theory from what I've read too and kind of looked into is that Apple bumped their price up like they did, where the 7 series, the most expensive one was like around what was it, 999 or whatever, and then the next year they kind of kept the same thing, and then it went up more expensive with the next two. I think they did that so when they do the 5G, they can keep it around the same price point, and it won't be as much of a shock. Where Samsung kind of kept everything where like their Note was the more expensive, and like the top end one was what 1249 or whatever. Except for if you did the Note 10 Plus 5G, it was like the same price as the base Ultra. So they had to bump it up.
It's going to be an interesting year, but I think, like I said, I think the winners and losers, besides the economic interesting stuff that's going on and the psychological impacts of both the market and this virus, it's going to play at the end of the year. I think we're all going to come. There's going to be all kinds of speculation, and I'm switching and I'm buying, and this sucks and that's great, in our tech world. But I think come September, October, we're going to look for those incremental upgrades with the Note 20. We're going to look at incremental upgrades with the iPhone 12. And I think at the end of the year, the winner of 2020, it's going to be who was the most efficient. And I think that's going to fall back on those mid-range phones. That's just my opinion.
It'll be interesting to see too, because some of these leaks of like the Google Pixel 4a are just like, this has to be a joke.
I liked it. The one that John Prosser dropped, this little teardrop thing on the back, I like it. I think
the front though was weird, like with the pinhole in the corner, and it looked kind of weird. But those are all mock-ups, so we have no idea.
So much stock. Like for instance, my favorite phone forever until the iPhone 11, the Note 10 Plus, the 11 Pro Max are my two favorite phones. Up until that point was the Pixel 3 XL, and it has the god worst ugly notch in the history of god worst ugly notches. We can agree on that. But when you use it and you see the function you get out of that and the value you can, like I got mine on sale for Black Friday. I paid like $600 or $700 for the 3XL, and fantastic value for me. And so I think a lot of those things, the notch on the iPhone, we made a big deal. We let it go. The pill on the S10 made a big deal. We let it go. The mock-ups and the things, it's like we have nothing to talk about when we see these designs, right? And we even let the Pixel 4 and the this thing right here, no one thought that was good. No one thought that was good when those things first hit, when we saw the leaks. And now everybody's like, you know what? It's kind of aesthetically. No, it's because it works great. It works great. We don't look at the back of our phone. Who cares? The front of our phone, we look at what screen is illuminated. The part that's not illuminated disappears in your hands, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, I actually posted on Twitter maybe a month and a half ago. I did a mock-up where I took the teardrop from the OnePlus 7T and basically edited it onto the Note 10 Plus to see what the Note 10 Plus would look like if it had a teardrop. And it was funny because in perspective, actually less of the screen is used up than the hole punch. So
Really?
yeah, because the hole punch being further down,
Oh, I get
and
it.
you have that gap in between there. So if they moved that up and essentially made it into a teardrop, you'd actually have more of the screen that's kind of frayed. It's funny to me.
I get it.
So it's all the same thing though, whether it's a notch, the teardrop, the pinhole, it's all something that people complain about because they think it obstructs their view. But like you said, you don't really notice
You
it.
don't notice it. No one
Or
knows.
you put your thumb over it when you're watching videos.
It's
Like you're
not a
sitting
big deal.
here and you end up
Well,
putting your thumb on it when
there you
you're
go.
holding your phone.
So there's something to talk about. So when we watch videos, typically we're looking at 16 to 9. With the new 20 to 9 and 21 to 9, like with some of the flip phones and stuff, some people are actually creating content for the wider and the ultra wide content also. So there could be a point in the next 2 years where we go away from 16 to 9 and it gets even bigger. Especially you look at like Q series Samsung monitors for gaming. I think at least in the gaming aspect and content consumption, I foresee us going to a wider format than a 16 to 9.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because all these phones went super big, with their aspect ratios. So then any content you had to, if you pinched in, it cropped a ton off the top and the bottom. And then some things went really weird because it would go like halfway through the pinhole and then you stretch it out and it goes all the way through. So it's like I prefer that if they're gonna do it.
The 3XL though, because at the top you had your time, your battery, all your indicator icons were up there in those two patches anyways. So you grow just on daily use to ignore the notch because that's just where I check my time and my battery, right? So whenever I consume content on it, I wouldn't even consider that part of the screen. So the same thing when I go to my iPhone or I go to my Note, I just ignore that part because we're talking about screens that are 6.5+ inches now.
Yeah. So it's like,
what's 0.2 inches anymore?
It's funny to me because
there's a joke in there somewhere, but
that was a huge deal. Oh, we're now a 6.9 inch and the Ultra is now bigger than the Note 10 Plus. Yes, by 0.1 inches.
Yes,
literally, like,
well,
do
because
people even know how big that is? That's like literally the thickness of
no, but here's the thing. So most people, let's say you're on a regular upgrade cycle and all you do is you read Best Buy's ad or you read whatever tagline. If you're not a tech person and you just know your son wants the newest, greatest iPhone, and you're a 45-year-old business executive that doesn't have time for this stuff, you're going to read the largest iPhone ever and be like, oh, this one's way better, son. That's all part of marketing. That's just the way that is. That's never been anything different.
I think of any of that as battery size, that you look at it and you go, not really necessarily getting a larger screen because of the larger screen, but for the sake of going from like a 4,000 to a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, especially when they're adding all this processing power and all these cameras that take battery.
Mm-hmm.
I could have the exact same size screen and then just have them make the phone slightly thicker and have the larger battery, and it would be, nobody would even notice. It's funny to me that it's like getting to the point. And I had a Nexus 7 tablet that's only 2/10 of an inch bigger than my phone. Like, that's crazy to me. Back in the day they had,
I remember.
And I don't know, it's funny. I kind of messed around with the new S20s a little bit when I was in the T-Mobile store yesterday, and I don't know. It's weird because of the aspect ratio is slightly different. So I actually thought, and people are going to think this is funny because I don't have the biggest hands, but I actually thought the S20 Ultra was actually small feeling compared to my Note. like because of the width.
Thinner. It's thinner, and that's what I said. So my Note, because of the way that it's like that tapered curved screen, and the fact it's wider, I agree. And I said that, and some people are like, it doesn't matter, and I'm like, I'm not saying it matters. I'm just saying it's more comfortable. The same reason that the iPhone is way heavier, right? Same thing, but the fact that it's rounded on the sides just makes it an easier phone for me to hold. It's more comfortable for a long holding. For somebody who uses their phone 12 hours screen time a day, like I do, it's nice.
I think that's what gets me is those edges, on the Note, that those corners. And if you have a case on there, it's almost worse. And then you get like, they have to make it flat. And I mean, I get why they do it, because in order to have the S Pen, like you'd have to make it like I guess they could make it curved. I mean, LG did on their Stylo series. They just made it curve along the corner. And Motorola's doing that with their new stylus phone. But it just seems funny to me that that's one of the, I don't know if you saw the discussion of what was called, I think it was called the Canvas. That was like the code name.
No, I didn't see that.
So my speculation was that one of two things, because there were actually two devices. There was the Canvas 1 and the Canvas 2. So I think that could be the new Notes, or it could be the next Tab that's rumored to come out, because they're rumored to be launching a light series of the Tab, and that they're going to do a Tab S7 already and an S7 Lite, because that would make sense. And put the 120 hertz. I think that's probably why it's called the Canvas. So it could be one or the other. And I think they're probably looking at like the idea of Apple has ProMotion with their iPads and the smoothness of like a canvas. So that would make sense.
Are we at the point where we all agree that phones don't need to go over 7 inches? Can we just stop? Like, I mean, as far as the screen, we're done.
Unless, I mean, if you were to talk to Gadget Goddess, she has that 7.2-inch Huawei phone. I was like, that thing, that's ridiculous. Like, you're getting
even the Fold. Like, I played with the Folds. I played with the Mate X and at CES and stuff. And ultimately, that's a cool thing. But now they're so thick when they rock in your pocket. You know what I mean? Then you're a thickness issue. So I think I personally, I tweeted actually last week about it. My dream phone, 6-inch screen. That's the perfect size. 6 inches is all you need if you're not, destroying it with a notch completely. And then, but I also asked for like a 6,000 milliamp battery with that 6-inch screen.
Yeah, that would be quite something to see. Is somebody coming out with a reasonable size phone that still has a larger battery.
I mean, the Asus, they have a pretty good battery. They have a good screen, but some of these other flagships could use, and iPhone and Apple, they seem to be leaning toward, we're just going to make it use less power rather than make the battery much bigger. So I don't know how much more you can reduce the process. They'll go to 5 nanometer, right? And we're using less power, but at some point you're going to have to keep bumping it up. And then they'll say, okay, we have a graphene hybrid, because everybody's talking about, I'm going to do a video on it, on graphene batteries. And I've learned a lot in my research that it's not, everybody says graphene, it's not pure graphene. It's a hybrid, because graphene itself is not going to get it done.
Yeah, they use it along with the current battery technology, because it's more it doesn't heat up as much.
It's super conductive, right? It's more flexible. They can make tighter sizes with it, stuff like that. But it also it's like less likely to be punctured or like warp, like Note 7 type stuff is less likely to happen. But they have super high degradation times, like losing, right now we have a battery after a year, you might be at 88% of the original capacity. These things are losing like 25% after 100 charges. So there's
that's not good.
Yeah, there's things like that. And the research I've done, that's what's been part of the limiting factor why these haven't rolled out. So they're great, but they're not going to make it yet. So that's why they're experimenting with the hybrid type stuff.
Yeah, because from what I heard, and there's actually there's a company that does a graphene. They have a graphene battery pack that you can get, like a portable battery pack. And what they were talking about is right now, essentially, smartphones actually only have maybe a 300 to 500 charge cycle before they're essentially degraded enough that it's going to start affecting processing and things like that. So if you think about it, if you charge your phone every night, that's like a year.
Yeah, I charge my phone more than that.
But that's complete cycles too, so it's a little different when you're.
Yeah, there's some funky. The good thing for me, and some I don't know about yourself, but for me, I never keep up. There's only typically 2 phones I keep a year, and that's whatever the flagship iPhone is and the flagship Pixel. Typically, those are the only ones that make it a year. Most of my phones I turn over in 3 to 6 months, just because I just want to try something else all the time.
I mean, my iPhone 10, after 2 years, when I bought my 11 Pro Max in September, was only down to 94% battery health, which I thought was really good. Like,
not bad.
I know that they say 80% is like the average after like a year now. So that's, but I think the whole graphene hybrid thing was the idea that you could essentially have a battery that lasts longer and charges faster in the same size. So essentially, like a 4,000 milliamp hour battery could last like a 6,000.
I have that right here. So in my notes right here, capacity increase of 45% in the same size, charges 5 times faster. So one of the prototypes that's out right now, again, only having about 100 cycle lifespan, charges in 15 minutes and lasts 2 to 3 days based on current sizes.
That's crazy.
Tech for Your Needs has a question there about my name or something.
Let's see. Oh, it was somebody asked. Where is it?
Where I got my name? Is that what he's asking? My parents named me.
Oh, he just wondered where you got your Tech 702 name from. I had that in there as I was going to ask that eventually, but
okay, I'll answer it now. 702 is the area code for Vegas, and all the good names I put like Ginger God, and no, I'm just kidding. No, but all the good tech channel names are gone. So I was just trying to rep where I'm at. And part of my channel idea was to not just do reviews, because I'm not going to do a review as good as most of these guys. I'm just a regular dude and I have no editing skills. So part of the reason I made my channel was to get outside. Like, I'm going to do videos on stuff in Vegas. It'll probably get 0 watches, but it's my channel, so whatever. But I think there's stuff that's cool out here in Vegas. We got Fremont Street. We got all kinds of technology in the casinos. So some security stuff. We got the Hoover Dam. I got all kinds of videos lined up to do for stuff like that. Also, in addition to just talking about phones every day. I think that gets boring.
Along that line, do you think that technology is becoming boring?
Technology itself is not boring. That is the lifeline. That's the lifeblood. Technology, it's not boring. The thing is that the average person is becoming more astute to what's going on. So I fell in love with tech when I was about 12 years old. I just turned 40. So like 1992. And I started messing with computers, taking them apart, not knowing anything, not having anybody teaching me, just tinkering, right? I saw DOS. It was like DOS 4.0 or DOS 3.0, one of those. We didn't have Windows. We had Windows, then we had Windows. When Windows 3 came out, that was like, UI heaven. But I had that drive to learn how those things worked and to learn QBasic coding and to do stuff that most 12-year-olds in the 90s didn't want to. Now, all of my bases. Like when I took my CompTIA test for IT tech and all that, I never took a class. I just went and took the test and I passed because I've literally been working with the stuff for 20, I've been working with it for so long, just doing it. I knew all the information. Nowadays, though, it's such a benefit. Anybody that was born since 1990, because you have all this information right there. So if you have that interest, you don't have to go to your neighbor's house and destroy his computer. I broke so much stuff learning. When I tried to build a computer my first time and I was shorting stuff out all over the place and just not really knowing what the hell I was doing. So technology is not boring. I think it's just to a point where our floor of common knowledge is much higher. So we expect more. And so when, if you pulled an 11 Pro Max out in 2002, people would think it's magic, right? For what it could do. Because at the time, that was right before the iPod came out even. So date yourself here. Maybe the original flip phones, some Nokias. Nokias were the hot thing. And I think it's just our floor of understanding for the general public and especially kids. And when I say kids, I mean people, 10 to 20. I know you're 18, you're an adult, but you're a kid. But I think in that area for your opportunities to expand and stuff, technology is not boring. It's so far advanced. We're looking for that jump. We want to jump every time. And the jump's not there right now. Now we go from 7 to 5 nanometer. That's our jump.
Yeah, it's one of those, well, and more people have access to fast internet and to information, so they look it up. So then
that information,
they're more informed coming into us. So we have to then provide more information or something different that they can't find elsewhere too. And I think that's, and I think because there have been people I know that in the tech community that have kind of been talking about feeling like technology was getting boring. And my thought was, well, maybe you just stopped looking at it any differently. Like maybe you are boring. That's my thought.
I'll tell you what's boring. Here's what's boring. You're on Twitter. I'm sure people that watch this, half of them will be on Twitter. What's gotten boring is the stagnation of where most of us on Twitter are it's an echo chamber. We're all either talking or bitching about or discussing the things we all already know. And we're dissecting tiny little boring things that don't really matter because we're all talking about the same thing. No one's going outside of that. And that's why I said I want it to be fun again. I want it to be where I can do things that are outside. Now, I know that doesn't get views because in order to get views on YouTube and have a successful channel, pretty much you have to niche down and, you got to focus all your SEO on what it is that you're talking about. But if what's really fun is learning new stuff, not talking about the same damn thing over and over again in the same way. And if I don't talk about that way, I'm not going to get views. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not getting paid for this. I'm going to do what I want to do. Whoever wants to ride with me, I'm going to show you cool stuff. You're not going to see the same crap every day. Now, are you going to see Marquez Brownlee quality on my channel? Nope, not going to happen. And you're going to have to look at my ugly face. But I will show you cool stuff. And I'll show you stuff that no one else is talking about. And maybe even useful stuff. That's what I'm trying to do.
Along the lines of that, I actually have some funny and fun videos coming up. So I'm going to do, I'm creating dating profiles for phones.
Oh, okay.
So along the lines of
a skit with that, I could see that.
And I'm gonna sit down and it'll pop up and I'll go through them, and then at the end I'll just do an open-ended question of which one will you swipe right on, or which one would you pick? And because I think it's different and it's clever and it's educational at the same time, because it points out, hey, this is the benefits of this device and the downsides. This is the benefits and the downside of this, and so on, and it's different than just sitting down and doing a review or a comparison, because it is a comparison, but it's kind of fun and funny at the same time. So
that seems cool.
And then I have noticed that there's not a lot of people doing quick tip videos and so there's some things that I've discovered, especially with setting up a device all over again, that I didn't really realize was there. So I'm going to be starting to do these little, just quick, 2-3 minute videos that just kind of go through the settings, explain what they are, explain the function, and on to the next one, because those seem to be super popular.
They do. I did I did one that didn't get the hits, but I did a how to save power on your note video, 3-minute video. And so I'm just like, it only got like 30 hits, I think 30 views. But the point was it's useful. I get questions asked to me all the time. I'm sure you do too. Friends, coworkers, whatever. How do I do this? I get to the point now. So if I start getting the same question asked, I'm just going to make a video on it. So that's the one cool thing about a channel. So when your friends and family are like, hey, dude, how do I change this wallpaper? Or how do I update this? Or how do I jailbreak this? I'll just send them links to my YouTube. I don't have to sit there and say the same damn thing 20 times. So that's cool.
And then I know that you talked about that YouTube isn't really your, it's kind of more of like a hobby sort of thing, but I didn't know if you had a specific person that you would like, it'd be awesome to work with, whether it's like on your stream or like real life, sit down and shoot a video with.
So I was super lucky. I live in Vegas. CES is in Vegas, and I got to meet a lot of cool. I met El Jefe. I met Gameskey. I met Zach Talks Tech. I met Jason from Painfully On. I've met tons of dudes, and they're all. What's crazy is I'll tell anybody watching this, the people I met are all legit. So whether you like them, you hate them, you don't like their style, their channel, I could tell you all the guys I just mentioned are real. How they act, they don't put up a front on Twitter or whatever. I hung out with them, and that's for real. But meeting these guys, I was able to pick their brain and get some crazy insight. And so I think the thing, as far as you talk about people working with, I'd like to work with those kind of guys, any of those guys. But one thing I won't do, I'd love to do a live stream with Viper, people like that. I think it's fun. I think people like that bring a great experience. They add something to me. I can learn from them. But what I won't do is use the fact that I know these guys and ruin their brand. So I need to make sure what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying, is up to par. So I mess around. I have like 120 subs or something on my channel. Not that that's indicative of what I'm putting out, but I know where my editing skills are. I know where my production skills are, where my speaking skills are. And I would love to work with all of those guys. Every person I've met at CES at some point, but I'm not going to damage their brand because I'm not up to what I see as their quality or their level. I think that's unfair. And I see a lot of people, new creators doing this, help me, and they're not willing to put in the work first. I know. So I would like to work with Zach. I'd like to work with El Jefe. I'd like to work with Gameskey. I'd like to work with Viper, all those dudes, because I didn't meet Viper, but I've had a lot of DM conversations with him. And I can tell you all these dudes have been legit to me. They've always kept their word, and they've been what they said they were. And for me, as a regular dude who's been in the military and stuff like that, I don't take myself super serious. But what I do take serious is that a man does what he says he's going to do. So that's all it is for me.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, I've noticed that too, that through interactions with different people and like a couple different opportunities, like I got to hop on and talk with Viper and Jason and Zach and like pose a couple questions, and then there was like discussion about photography. And so of course
that's your jam.
I hopped in and it was like, this is what it's all about, and this is how it works. And they were all like, oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. So that's the thing though, like, so I'm a small creator, but that's what I appreciate is the humility for them to be like, hey, about that, so come on in and talk to us.
That's you bringing value to them because you have a niche, right? So that's the other part of it, is like, it's not just working with somebody to work for someone to get views, because I'm sure I could convince some of these dudes to do a video with me, but then what? I get 1,000 views extra on that video, but I'm still the same guy. They're bringing their audience for that video to help me out, but that doesn't really help me. That's why I work with you and Chris, and we're doing our thing, because some of the best advice I got, and for any new creators out there, is find people your level and come up together. You're creating that SEO, plus you all have the time to do that. When somebody already has 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 subscribers, not that that's like some fantasy land where they're disconnected, but their mentality of what they're focusing on and what their channel needs is different. So by you knowing the photo, maybe by me bringing Vegas content or safety content on a video or something where I can contribute to their video, then it makes sense. But just saying, hey, get on this video and talk about this phone with me, that's a waste of their time, I think. And I'm not going to do that to them, even if they would be nice enough to do it. I want it to be something that where I could say, hey, I contributed to that video. We were equal in that video. If you're not equal in that video, or if you're not equal in that stream and the content you're bringing, you're wasting somebody's time. And I'm not going to do that. So
That's true.
kudos to you for making yourself useful and contributing to make it to where 10,000 subscribers, 100 subscribers, doesn't matter. You were equal to them in the moment you were speaking and giving value to their broadcast. That's the way I look at that.
It was pretty cool. And I got to be on Viper's, actually, technically his 2 last streams of 2019 because of his 2 different, where he has Vipe Live and Vipe Drive. He has the podcast and his, It was so funny. I got to be on there and I was like, huh, that was pretty cool, just for a little bit. But I just kind of, he was like, hey, if anybody wants to hop in, I'm like, sure, I'll hop in. And it was fun because it's one of those, that's what I would say to anybody is like, don't miss opportunities by not being there.
Absolutely.
Like, if you're not there, you can't take the opportunity. It's the same thing with, like, people feel odd reaching out to me and being like, hey, you're doing this cool thing with creators. Hey, here's somebody I think you should work with. But to me, it's like, you realize I only have 207 subscribers, but I get it, because at the same time, there are some people that just, they don't have the same quality as like their quality isn't there yet.
Well, there's 3 components to this, right? So there's a knowledge. You got to know what the hell you're talking about, right? Then there's technical proficiency, which is editing, setting up your equipment, your lighting, stuff like that, right? And then there's marketability, your personality, your charisma. So you need 2 out of 3 to really be successful at anything, I think, online. So maybe you don't have the personality and the charisma, but you know what the hell you're doing and you know what you're talking about, you can make something happen, right? So I think as long as you have 2 out of 3 to present, and public speaking and being on a live stream, there's a little, like, I've done like 5 of these. I've taught a bunch of fire classes, CPR classes, things throughout my life, but it's not the same as when I can see that little, red live right there. And I know anybody in the world right now can come back and make fun of what I'm saying. They can hold me accountable for what I'm saying. They can make fun of my haircut. And that's just human. But you do not get better at that unless you just say, screw it, I'm going to do it. So the public speaking part of it, especially for streams and videos, if you don't do it, you're not going to get better. It's an art form for sure.
Yeah. So my thing has been, okay, cool, you have a suggestion. So I go on and I watch their videos and I go, okay, that's something in line with, somebody in line with, and they seem to be comfortable. So then what I'll do is reach out to them and then chat back and forth so that they get to know me and are more comfortable before I'm going to have them on here. Cause I don't want somebody just coming on here and having never talked to me and they're like super nervous. And the other thing about that is, I'm interviewing you. If I don't know you, I can't ask questions. I have to know you at least a little bit.
Stranger, yeah, some random. If you're not following them familiar, for sure.
It's like attorneys only ask questions they already know the answer to. Interviewers typically only ask questions that they know they can find an answer to. I'm not going to sit here and ask you a bunch of questions about things you aren't going to be able to answer. So, learning that has been,
my list is long.
Interesting.
I don't know. So. What else you got?
And then just on this one, your goals for the year as far as channel, life, whatever,
Work. I still have my full-time job. I got my side business. I got my kids. So obviously those are my priorities. But this is fun. I had no expectations. I've now had, what is it? March 5th. So I've had a channel for 10 or 11 weeks. And I have 120 subs. Now, subs is not the end all be all, but I definitely want 1,000 because I want that community tab. I want to have the option to make money if I want to, right? So that's really where I'm at with goals as far as numbers. Now, where do I think I'll get? Probably 400 to 500. We'll see what I do with my content. I'm going to take a lot of chances right now. So, like I said, you're going to see there's a place called the Tipsy Robot here in Vegas, and it's a bar at Planet Hollywood, and the servers are robots. It's automated drink service. So I'm going to do a video there. So, like, just to give you an example, the Fremont Street experience here in Vegas, I'm lucky because I'm in Vegas. So I have access to all this cool technology on location, lots of tags, right? I could put Vegas hashtag and a lot of stuff. I'm no dummy with that. But not that that'll get the huge normal hits and views, but it's stuff I want to do. And when I make my first, I've made 16 videos, I think, when I get to about 50 videos, I'll see what direction I want. Some of the things I've considered is going safety direction, because of my military and fire background. Everything from I've considered doing maybe being the guy that does alarm systems and stuff like that, or survival stuff, whatever stuff that I'm knowledgeable in. Because part of having a channel and being good is not knowing what you do, but having credibility. So people can be like, okay, well, this guy, he's done this, he's been there, he's deployed, he does this professionally. What he's telling me right now in those regards carries a little bit more weight than just some dude that started a YouTube channel. So if I want to develop into a niche, that's probably more the direction someone like me needs to go. Because again, I'm not going to be able to make a pixel video and make it prettier than John Rettinger. You know what I mean? So you got to know where you stand, know what your strengths are. So I'm just going to keep making videos, trying to make at least one a week. And, hopefully I do get the 500 subs or something like that. But my goal is the 1,000 subs, and anything other than that is gravy. Maybe not in the first year, but ultimately.
So my goal is I'd like to hit 1,000 subs this year for some of the same reasons, but also to be able to go live mobile, because you can't go live mobily until you hit
like Vegas. You need to be at the mobile.
So to be able to, I mean, you can with certain like apps and stuff, like like Streamlabs and stuff.
Thank you, Apple Monster.
But you can't just, it's just not the same. So to be able to, because I think it would be cool to be able to go, hey, I'm streaming from my iPhone, so this is what it would look like. Now I'm streaming from my Note, so this is what it'd look like. Like a new phone comes out and you're reviewing it.
I would do that, because then you're just going to have all the knights or the sheep
to be able to stream, but to be able to stream from it.
No, I would.
As a review, I think would be pretty cool.
For sure. And plus, like I said, I'm lucky with my location. I'm going to use it. No shame in that. But ultimately, I just want to show people stuff, a different perspective, because I'm not a slave to any brand or any goal or any type of technology. And I don't even know everything. Like, I don't know nothing about cameras. I don't know nothing about earbuds, which is like the hottest thing on YouTube right now. So that's hurting me. But I will talk what I know about. I'm not going to make a video about what I don't know about or I don't care about. It's not going to happen just for clicks. Never will.
So for me, though, I don't care. Like, I'll trigger Samsung Knights. I'll get Apple Sheep coming at me. See, the thing is, they have to watch the video.
Yeah, you get the clicks.
To be mad. So
haters are a good thing. Haters mean that your content's being seen.
I have a couple titles coming up that are going to get some people triggered. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how people respond. But it's something that I've seen people discussing, and it was like a tip that was given to Painfully Honest Tech about, using, for example, using an iPhone in a lot of your titles. Mm-hmm. So that the algorithm thinks it's all about the same thing. But you can do that and completely not be talking about that really at all. And people can call it clickbait, but you know what? If you fell for it and you watched it, you enjoyed it.
I'm not going to go that far down the rabbit hole. I would like to get a big enough following, and I'm trying to use Twitter to generate that, because I have like 300 followers on Twitter, even though I only have 100 subs. It definitely doesn't correlate between my Twitter and my YouTube. Like, people don't sub. They may want to hear your BS for 5 seconds, but they don't want to sit down and watch your video, which I get. And that's why people that do click on my videos, I'm super appreciative of, because I click on videos. And when I click on a video, I'm like, okay, you got 2 minutes, dance, monkey, or whatever. And so I try to dance quick and not make my videos crappy as far as like getting the content out. So for right now, my goal with my videos is just getting the content out in an accurate way to get people information. Eventually, I want people to be like, oh, this is Mike. He's a jackass. He goes out to Vegas. He drinks. He makes cool videos. I want to watch that guy. And I hope I can develop that kind of like normal, regular dude, even though I know what I'm talking about. because I'm like the most normal dude ever and not necessarily super accurate. Like you're super accurate and punctual and 100% on. And some of these guys are like these great, beautiful people to look at. I want to be like the regular dude that you want to hang out with when you come here. So that's my goal. And I want to bring that kind of community together of regular people that aren't haters, that aren't knights, that aren't sheep, just people that think tech's cool and we all like to hang out and talk about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, because that's what I've found too, that like I get these people that think that I really like iPhones or I really like Android device, but that's because that's the topic of that video. Like, watch other videos and you'll see that it's like if you clicked on a video about how to do this on an iPhone, of course it's not going to be on a Note 10 Plus.
Right.
And if you clicked on it, like you clicked on it, the title says it right there, and the description says even more.
I run into that because in the same day I'll say something critical of Samsung from my iPhone, right? And then 2 hours later say something critical of iPhone from Android. And people are like, they can't figure it out because and the same group of people jump in every time to go ham against their favorite brand that they, and it's just funny. I almost sometimes purposely switch platforms to post just to drive people crazy and bring that out because I think it's hilarious.
And I know this is probably not right, but sometimes I'll do that too. Like I'll see a thread that's going back and forth between two people on some topic.
I think I'm a troll down deep.
And I'll just go in there and drop some comment. And it doesn't matter if I 100% believe it or not, but just to see like the direction of the conversation. And I've done that before and had like 5 new followers within like 2 minutes because people are like, who's this guy?
Controversy sells, bro. It sells for sure.
And so, but yeah, it's been interesting. I will say, it's been awesome these past couple of weeks with you and Chris and our
we just kind of made it up out of nothing. It's a good time.
And our kind of new endeavor. And the one thing I wish is that YouTube would have like a mutual way, because if it's under your channel, you get all those view hours. And then like if we rotated, it still wouldn't work because like 1 week you could have like 20 people and get like 2,000 view hours within a short amount of time on one channel. And then you switch it to another. And if not enough people come in. So I wish that they could you could say, hey, split our view times up in thirds and like give credit to this person, this person, this person, because the 3 hosts.
About that, because it's not a super serious thing to me. I don't mind rotating it around. So whatever you guys do.
I think we should just keep it on your channel because everybody already knows to go there for it, and it draws people to our channels anyway. So,
I mean, for some 3 dudes that are just talking trash on a Friday night with low sub counts, we've been getting great interaction. So everybody that does tune in, thank you guys, because it's been pretty good for the first couple of weeks.
It's been it's funny because I literally have had people tell me, you just met them? Like that's their thing. Like, yeah, I just met them literally in like 2 weeks.
Ad. Michael Pepper said, "I'm your Huckleberry."
So it was funny. It was one of these like, yeah, I literally hadn't met Chris up until like the day before. And Mike, I've talked to you back and forth a little bit, but like people are like, how do they interact? Like they're brothers beating up on each other, or like it's because we love what we do and we don't care.
The thing is,
we don't. Our personalities is that way. So
the ego, there's no egos here. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Like you watch some star-studded live streams, and sometimes it gets so I won't say ego, but there's like brand conflict there. You know what I mean? Where people are trying to get their words in, and we just actually it's the opposite. When we do our live streams, we're all like, all right, you want to talk?
Yeah.
I'm gonna drink this beer off camera real quick. You take it.
It's been
stuff.
It's been cool. So like yeah. I just wanted to kind of plug that so people that are watching go, check that out. If you're on here and you're following me on Twitter and you're not following that guy, definitely do that. And I will I need to do better at this, but I will try to remember to tweet out when we do our streams on mine
I did
too,
it
so
last
that
week. I
people
didn't do it the first time, but I did it last week. So.
or retweet your tweet on it so that people see it and come in and stuff. But
Chris is good about it.
Yeah. So I think with that being said, you don't go anywhere because I want to talk to you afterwards, but I'm going to drop you out and do my wrap up. So
I'll grab a beer. Hey guys, thanks. It's been fun. Hope you guys tune in tomorrow night. Hope you guys keep following Michael Pepper. He's on the rise. Appreciate you having me on, Mike.
Anytime. It's so much fun. It's fun to have people on mine when they're having me all over on theirs. And I feel like, hey, it's my time to be able to just ask the questions and kind of, have fun. So that was episode 5 of Creator Interviews with Mike from Tech 702. Tune in not next week, but the following week on Tuesday, March 17th, for the next episode with Joan from Sharp Tech, and we will have an awesome conversation with that. The following week with Tech for Your Needs, and the week after that, I have a surprise guest that I'm working on. So I'm looking forward to that and having this booked out for about the next month. Thank you to everybody who stopped in tonight. We had 9 people at one point and kind of back and forth and up and down between the views and the questions. And as always, thank you for watching and God bless.